What is up, Retromaniacs? My name is Mike. His name's Joe. His name's EP, and we're here to talk about cards. Specifically, we're here to talk about a card video. Chris Sewell, the baseball card collector, investor, dealer, had a really cool video out. The top 15 most valuable cards, football cards from the 1990s. He only used base cards. He didn't use any inserts or parallels, and he's basing it off of the grade in a PSA 10, which makes the list very interesting to me.
All rookies too, as well.
Well, it wasn't just rookies in his setup, and that's how it ended up working out for him.
Oh, okay.
And only one card per player, or else certain players would dominate the list. So, going to run over the list, and we'll talk about it a little bit. Number 15 was Adam Vinatieri's 1997 Pacific Philadelphia card that's worth $50 raw and $400 and a PSA 10. This card, I don't know how I don't have one. I had so much Pacific Philadelphia left over from my shop, and I didn't have an Adam. Like, I feel like I had enough to have like 3 or 4 Adam Vinatieris, but none. I was so disappointed.
I feel like you probably sold them because he was famously, Bill Belichick said, our best player. Those first couple of Super Bowls, he was our best player. I wouldn't be shocked if people, after he won the first one, came into your shop and bought him.
Maybe.
I'm actually shocked this is not higher on the list. That was one of my takeaways. It's such a unique card. He only has one rookie.
Mm-hmm.
All the other players, for the most part, have multiple rookies. I'm kind of surprised the scarcity of just the number of rookie cards he had that this didn't go higher.
Yeah, definitely. He's only a kicker. So, I mean, like, it's wild. I said only a kicker, but because he's a kicker, that's I know. Because he's a kicker, that's the reason probably why it's so low. But yeah, I mean, just talking about the amount of other cards out there for all the other players on this list, the rookie cards, even for some players that have few, like you're talking about one rookie card, and Mike, like there's probably a box somewhere that has at least one in it somewhere. I would think
there might be.
Like, there's got to be a box.
I've been looking. How crazy is it though? Like in the modern era that a Hall of Fame player, a soon-to-be Hall of Fame player, only had one rookie card. Didn't have any others. Only had one. All right, number 14 on the list. This one, I guess, not surprising, but Champ Bailey, 1999 Contenders Auto. Now, the Contenders Auto were part of the set, so that's why it qualified for his list. But only a $50 card raw and worth $420 in a PSA 10. I saw that raw price. I'm like, that sounds like a card I should pick up. Like, he was a great player, Hall of Fame, and $50 for an autograph. I feel like I need that card.
Yeah, and the PSA 10 price, I'm a little surprised it's not higher just because how many 1999 Contenders cards did we go through when we got back into this? And there's this weird like discoloring or something that happens to those cards. Yeah. A 10 feels like that's a premium card for sure. And for it to be an autograph, Champ Bailey is he gets lost because he came after Charles Woodson. And, some people don't think of him as one of the best cornerbacks, but he was for sure. And that 99 set is a pretty great set especially if you can get it in high grade. Like that's $400 for a PSA 10, I believe you said seems cheap to me.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first card on the list for me where I prefer other cards of his. And I understand that this is about a value thing. But like he showed, one of the cool things about the video is before he showed the actual card, he showed like 3 other cards that were more like my kind of price range. And I love the Topps Chrome card and the finest card. They're more of my favorites of the Champ Bailey from that year. But yeah, I mean, Champ Bailey, great player.
Well, speaking of EP's price range, the 13th card, kind of a surprising one, Curtis Martin, 1995 SP rookie card. This is a card that is about $1 raw, and it was worth $420 in a PSA 10. We're going to be seeing a little bit of a running theme as we go through this list, but yeah, the PSA 10 of a SP card from the mid 90s, they just don't exist. They're hard to get, and it makes $1 card a $400+ card.
So 2 things quick. One, he was famously my first ever fantasy football draft pick back in 1996. EP, though, held him for like 20 years. I think EP had him from year 2 on. But he's also hailed a Pitt. So this is not my favorite rookie of his because he's got some rookies in his Pitt uniform. So I prefer those. But I think I have like 5 of these SP rookies, none of which are 10s, because guess what, folks? SP doesn't make 10s. I don't think that 10 is real. I'm pretty sure it's just, caught up in a lab somewhere, because SP, and we'll talk about it consistently throughout this list, SP chipped terribly. An 8 or a 9 felt like a 10 when you would send in SP cards.
Yeah, I mean these cards were, they were badass. Like the all the SP cards, well, not all of them, but a lot of them had this foil finish, and they were really cool. This is obviously not my favorite Curtis Martin, but is obviously the most expensive one. And like Joe said, the Curtis Martin, one of my longtime fantasy players, really a player that I respected and was a really great player.
Number 12 on the list, the 1996 SP Jonathan Ogden. That's also a $1 card raw and $510 sale on that in a PSA 10. Again, just it's SP. We're gonna see those over and over again. You want to make your cards worth money in the future? Just make them poorly.
Right. PMGs. Right. Yeah. What's so funny is some of honorable mention cards he talked about of some of these players were PMGs then. That's the same thing. I mean, those were numbered, obviously, but they were made so poorly that an 8 felt like a 10 in those. Ogden, top 5 offensive lineman of all time, potentially, and we'll talk about his draft mate here shortly on the list. This is not my favorite Ogden rookie, but I get it. I understand it. And I'm actually kind of surprised that Ogden's rookies, like if you were going through your cards from back in the shop or when we were collecting, and you came across an Ogden SP rookie, I'd be like, oh, I better check Terapeak. I'm shocked it's a $1 card. Like that feels like really low. Offensive lineman cards seem to have a good deal of value. It's almost like they're after quarterback, wide receiver, and then it's offensive lineman because they have so few cards. Ogden might be the exception because he has quite a bit more. He was a pretty well-known player coming in. But yeah, this felt like a steal. And the $500 for a PSA 10, that sounds about right.
Yeah, all the respect to Ogden, like everything Joe said, but I think this 96 SP set is my favorite SP set. I love the red, the design, the red, and again, the chipping is horrible, obviously, but I mean, there's a lot of great rookies in this set, and I love that set.
All right, number 11 on the list was Ray Lewis 1996 Bowman's Best at the $30 card raw and $520 in a PSA 10. This is the first one that the PSA 10 version kind of surprised me of, because I don't look at 96 Bowman's Best as a card that's terribly condition sensitive, but maybe there are more issues. Maybe it's because defensive players weren't worth anything back then. So if you got Ray Lewis, you didn't put him in a sleeve and a top load and keep him in great condition. But yeah, that one surprised me a little bit. Again, another card that I didn't find any of when I was looking through my leftover card shop inventory.
Yeah, what a draft the Ravens had that year. Ogden and Ray Lewis. Jeez, that's crazy. Bowman's Best. I think this was the first. Was this the first year? Or was this the second year of Bowman's Best? Maybe.
I think it was the first year of the football.
I wouldn't be surprised, to your point, Mike, if there were a lot of like little micro scratches from just throwing them into a box with the rest of them because you didn't pull whoever the hot quarterback and running back was back then. But Ray Lewis, and you look at that and you can get it in refractor, super, X-fractor, and all those different things. But yeah, I'm surprised that the gap between raw and 10. I'd be interested to see what like an 8 or a 9 would be worth in that one.
Yeah, because of the nature of this list, I have a cool card, Ray Lewis, one of the greats. Well, the nature of the list, I wasn't even thinking about it. But then he said, and for the honorable mention or the card at the end, he said, let's have some fun with these. The atomic refractor. I was like, oh, of course, the atomic refractor is going to be expensive and really, really freaking cool. And it was.
Yeah.
I think it might have been the second year for the football.
Okay.
Number 10 on the list, the 93 SP Drew Bledsoe card. It's a $3 card raw and worth $590 in a PSA 10. This is actually one of my favorite looking cards. I think the 93 and the 94 SP, the rookies they're my favorites. I think they're the best looking, but just the pose, the color of the Patriots uniform and everything.
Background color.
Yeah, a really, really cool looking card. And kind of surprised to see that it's worth that much. Like Drew Bledsoe was a very good player, but he wasn't quite, that elite level of a quarterback, but he's a very popular player. He has a lot of people follow him. So
yeah, so I could just say ditto to your points, Mike, because this is my favorite set of SP for sure. The rookies in this set are so much fun. We'll talk about another one here later, but I was also surprised that Bledsoe was this high. I mean, I understand he was, at the time, first overall pick, famously showed up in like a Kmart photo shoot. It looked like at the draft. Remember that red button-up shirt, no tie, and like slacks. But yeah, he must have still quite a following because, again, he didn't do as much in the NFL. He did more than people remember, but less than this card should be valued at, if that makes sense. Like, he was better than people thought back then, but then the card to me shouldn't be worth as much as it is. I don't know.
I think he probably benefited from being, a first, such a high pick, and then also having a decent career with multiple teams. Like, he actually did pretty well with multiple teams. I think that helped quite a bit. And I agree with you guys. 100%. 93 SP is great. I still think I prefer 96 SP over it, but 93 is a banger. Yeah, great.
Maybe he's popular because he was the guy that got injured and let Tom Brady.
Drew bled so much he needed a transfusion.
Yeah, absolutely.
What I heard.
Okay, number 9 on the list. This is an interesting card. The Jason Taylor 1997 SP rookie card. Again, another card I did not have in my leftover inventory. This card is a $40 card raw and $750 in a PSA 10. It's just, he has very, very few cards and one of the all-time greats. I'm a little surprised there's as much of a bump from the PSA 10 on the 97, like especially his was a base card. It wasn't like a rookie card or anything specifically in that. So I was a little surprised by the condition bump for 97 SP.
Yeah, because the base cards after the rookies were always all foil, and then the base cards just were. They had a foil, but it wasn't like a speckled foil. It's hard to describe, but it almost looked like those rookies almost looked like they had like a little felt or something. It's if you have never seen them, they're pretty awesome. But yeah, with that being a base card, I'm kind of surprised that
they were foil though. The rest of the base,
they were foil, right?
Yeah.
But they didn't have that like almost Spectre etch.
Yeah, they didn't have that. That's why I was surprised.
Yeah,
like they didn't have as much of the chipping issues and stuff that they did on the rookie
like
card.
Bert Emanuel, famously, thank God his is not, because
never heard of.
Jason Taylor, I was actually kind of surprised to see him this high on the list. I didn't put a gun to my head, say name 15 of the top. I don't think he would have made it for me. It is nice, though, to see defensive players, offensive linemen, not just littered with quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's a telltale sign for people that are collecting nothing but quarterbacks now. That in 20 years, maybe those quarterbacks you're collecting won't be worth as much, and Hall of Fame players like this will be.
Yeah, good call on the Jason Taylor thing, Joe. I think he's was a great player. I mean, but like for him to be worth more than the Ray Lewis card, even though I realize that there are more Ray Lewis rookies available and stuff. It's crazy that he's that much higher in the top 10. Well,
all right, number 8 was the Terrell Owens 1996 SP rookie card, $5 card raw and $760 in a PSA 10. Again, those red borders, you find me one without chipping on it.
Yeah.
Make a card, put a dark colored border on it, and use really dull blades, and you will have rookie cards that are worth a fortune in PSA 10 20 years later.
Yeah, this one makes a lot of sense to me. Could have even been higher on my list if I was just jotting stuff down as guesses. Terrell Owens, I mean, famous beyond just football. And that SP card, that's one that I remember us when he got good at the shop looking through our old SP trying to find rookies of him because of he came out of nowhere. And the fact that he had a foil one is kind of surprising to me. The fact that he had that level, because he wasn't a first round pick. I believe he was a third or a fourth round pick. So for him to have one of I think they were like the first 20 cards maybe, or first 30 cards, for him to have one of those makes it even more special. And that's a really, really cool card. The red with the red uniform really, really pops.
Yeah, again, I love this set. T.O., one of the greatest players. I actually have one of these. I have an Ogden too, but my T.O. is in a semi-rigid to be sent in to get graded. I do not think it is a 10. Like, it's definitely not a 10, but it's one that I would like to.
I mean, if it is, you're buying steaks, right? I mean, come on.
Right. I think it could probably be like an 8 or 9. Like, there's very little chipping on it, so I'm gonna send it in and see what happens.
All right, number 7. I was really happy to see this player on the list. Eder James. Again, this is the 1999 Contenders autograph. $100 raw and $900 in a PSA 10. I'm kind of happy to see those numbers. Eder James, for a guy who was as good as he was, is not really remembered today like he should be. He was as good as anybody else who was playing at the time. And, you remember LaDainian Tomlinson, you remember Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith, those guys. But for some reason, Eder, he's kind of like a level below, and people don't really talk a whole lot about him, although he does have fans. I sell a good amount of his cards in stack sales, but yeah, I didn't know he would have a card that was worth this much, though, especially when Champ Bailey is worth like half the price raw. It's kind of surprising to me.
I love this card that it's up here and this valuable because of a lot of things you said, Mike. Keep in mind, Hall of Fame running back. He was so important to the Colts that they gave him a Super Bowl ring after he left the team. He got a Super Bowl ring. The Super Bowl was in Arizona. He was an Arizona Cardinal at the time. Showed them around the city. He got an honorary Super Bowl ring. I think that's such a cool story. And I bet you if you went up to just general sports fans who maybe weren't as into it as we were because of cards and fantasy football and said, who was the first running back taken in the 1999 draft, Eder James or Ricky Williams? I guarantee you the majority would say Ricky Williams because of the pomp and circumstance that he got. Eder James, you failed to mention Marshall Faulk is one of those running backs. Marshall Faulk left, and it was like, oh my God, I can't believe you let Marshall Faulk leave. Oh, no problem. We'll take Eder James, who career for career. I mean, it's pretty darn close.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the point I was going to make. Like they made one of Marshall Faulk are considered to be one of the greatest running backs of all time as an all-purpose running back, and they made them forget it. Like they didn't even worry about it. They could forget about it. And so it's crazy. This was the biggest surprise on the list for me. Again, Eder James, great player, but he just doesn't get the love a lot of other people do. So yeah, I 100% agree. Great, that's on this list.
Okay, number 6. Charlie Woodson. Yes, Charles Woodson. 1998 SP Authentic. Our first look at SP Authentic, which is SP, but it became SP Authentic. That was an $80 card raw and $1,170 in a PSA 10. These were numbered out of 2000, I believe. But again, even though they added the Authentic to the name, the rookies were still incredibly hard to find without a little bit of chipping on the cutting. Upper Deck must not have known how to get new.
They went to Office Max.
They're using butter knives.
They're using like hand cutting them with cutting board. So I'm actually kind of surprised. Like, I'm surprised as a player he's up this far on the list, but because of the set that he's in, it's not surprising.
Yeah, the set that he's in, plus the Heisman thing, I think that boosts his value a little bit. Being with Michigan, then the Raiders, and then just like I think it's not just him as a player. I think it's like the whole package with Charles Woodson, where I think Champ Bailey, awesome player, but I don't think he has those extra levels of mystique about him like to me, what I remember about Champ Bailey is the trade with Clinton Port. You know, like that's kind of what I remember for some reason.
Yeah.
Charles Woodson, you have the Pose, you have Michigan, you have the Raiders. So you have him stripping Tom Brady, you know, of the tuck rule. You have all that stuff. So I think it makes sense. And to your point, Mike, what was Upper Deck doing? why are their cards so
they were
badly
creating
cut?
value,
right? They didn't even know it at the time.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this set specifically. So, I mean, this would not be what the cards that I would choose for Woodson. But yeah, you make a great point, Joe, with the Heisman thing. Like, how many defensive players win the Heisman? Like, there's definitely some sort of mystique around him. That's why it's as high. And
it's him, isn't it? Just him?
I think he's the only defensive player to win.
Yeah. So
at least in the modern era. Okay, number 5, Emmitt Smith, the 1990 score supplemental rookie. It's a $50 card raw and $1,250 in a PSA 10. There are almost 800 of these in the PSA 10 too. So
wow.
Kind of surprising. I mean, come on, Emmitt is like maybe the best running back that ever played the game after Barry Sanders, and I'm not surprised that he would have be up here normally, but here's from 1990. The stuff that was put out then was pretty much crap, and they made a lot of it. So to see a card with that high of a pop and have it be worth that much is really a surprise to me.
Yeah, and since you rightly corrected me that it wasn't specifically rookies, when I watched this list at first and I suggested this as a topic, I'm like, EP's going to complain this is not a rookie. Yeah. He's going to say this is an XRC. But since that's not the criteria that Chris will put out there, I guess we'll give it a pass. But yeah, and I mean, supplemental was a set, right? I mean, you weren't even pulling it from packs, so it doesn't feel like it should be condition sensitive enough to have that increase its value. So it's all got to be about leading NFL rusher. This is his best looking card, I would say. So
I like the Fleer update better.
You like the Fleer update better?
Like
yeah, I mean
the looks, yeah.
Yeah, but I guess it makes sense, depending on your taste. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of surprised as you, Mike, if this is such a high pop, 800 in a 10. It probably shouldn't be this high, but it's just the Emmitt Smith name is pushing it.
Yeah, there are a lot of cards in here with like pops of like 41 and stuff. And so when you said the numbers, like, wow, that to be worth that much, it's crazy. And I believe that Mr. Sue will probably just watches our channel and he's like, oh man, EP's gonna roast me if I make this a rookie card list and have an XRC on there. So I better not.
Yeah, he changed the title after the fact. Because he knew you would be mad. I'm certain that's what happened. Okay, my favorite card on the list checks in at number 4, the Kurt Warner 1999 Contenders autograph, $200 raw, $1,850 in a PSA 10. Again, it's the set, it's the fact autograph, the rarity of them, and then the condition sensitivity of it. Like everything just combines to make this a great card. But we love Kurt Warner. We do. We love Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner was so good, and so many people don't even know it. So I'm so happy to see Kurt Warner this high on the list.
I was bummed he wasn't higher. I got to be honest, and there's some great players we're going to talk about here shortly, but I was bummed he wasn't higher. Looking back at that Super Bowl he played as a Cardinal, I was still a Steelers fan at the time, so I was rooting for the Steelers. But if I could turn back time, I would have been rooting for the Cardinals between him and Larry Fitzgerald, Larry Legend. I mean, I was really, really happy to see him on this list. It is a great card, and it's one of those honorable mention cards. We did a video a couple of weeks ago. Cards, just shut up and buy it. Just buy it already. This is there. You can get a PSA 8 or an SGC 8 that have been on my watch list for a while for a couple hundred more than a raw one. I'm tempted, man. I just such a. He was someone we chased. I remember chasing his rookies with Tony Horn out of Pacific. So this card, and he has a beautiful autograph. He has an absolutely beautiful autograph. So definitely one I should add.
He's was the maestro of the Greatest Show on Turf. So much fun to watch those. I mean, those teams, and so I really I don't like SP or I don't like contenders. Like that's not my favorite set from that year. He only has a few rookies though, and so you should have a checklist of cards you want to get in your to collect, and Kurt Warner rookie card should be on that list.
My only problem with this whole video was Chris saying on a card with some guy named Tony Horn. The disrespect.
I noticed that too. It got me too a little bit. Yeah.
Come on. It's Tony Horn, not some guy named Tony Horn.
He was by the way, great return man for them. Like people don't realize how good he actually was because he's just the guy that was on with Kurt Warner.
All right, number 3, and I will say the most surprising value I've seen. The 1993 SP Jerome Bettis, a $4 card raw, but $1,900 and a PSA 10. I understand they're condition sensitive, but like, what kind of I'm surprised that there's that kind of a market at that price for a PSA 10 for Jerome Bettis. No disrespect to Jerome Bettis. It was a fun guy to watch, a great player. I'm surprised that it is that high of a card.
I'm with you. When we got to this point in the list, when I was watching this video, I'm like, oh, that's weird that Jerome Bettis didn't make the list.
It's worth almost 4 times more than the Bledsoe, almost.
Yeah.
Like 3.5.
Like, again, Hall of Fame player. I get it. The bus, fun guy in Pittsburgh. Notre Dame, that might play a little bit into it as well. But I don't get it. I would never, ever pay that. I mean, there's a lot of cards I wouldn't on this list. I wouldn't pay for a PSA 10. But it was really, really shocking to me. Give me the Kurt Warner and the money in my pocket over Jerome Bettis, and famously not in his Steelers uniform. That to me, if he was a Steeler, like drafted as a Steeler, and it was a Steelers uniform card, I could kind of almost get it. In the Rams as a fullback, kind of weird to me. Still love the set, still think it's a cool card. Yeah, this one shocked me a lot. I thought he missed the list. I thought he was maybe card 16 because there's no way he's in the top 3 or 4.
No way he's worth $1,900.
Right.
He is. Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised. Like I feel like Kurt Warner should be. I'm a huge Jerome Bettis fan, but a big Notre Dame fan. So that I was going to make the same comment. Notre Dame is probably part of the reason why. But I think Kurt Warner should be ahead of him on this list, and probably a couple other players on this list. But I mean, like you said, Bettis was fun to watch, and he has a career. Had the career beyond just being on the field, and I wonder if that maybe helped. But that's the multiplier compared to the Drew Bledsoe is crazy.
All right, number 2 is Elite Co 3's favorite card, the 1998 SP Authentic Randy Moss. It's a $300 card raw, again, numbered to 2000. So the raw pricing on that kind of surprising, but kind of not. It should be worth that, but I'm kind of surprised that since it's numbered to 2000, it's held that kind of value, and it's worth $2,480 in a PSA 10. Again, condition sensitive, but one of the greatest players that ever played in the league too. So this makes a little more sense to me than Jerome Bettis. No disrespect again to Jerome, but yeah, Randy Moss was on another level, and still to this day, people know Randy Moss and are wowed by the things he did when we got to watch him do it every week. So this card doesn't surprise me. I wish I had some of them, but I don't.
I mean, Randy Moss is a verb. Once you become a verb, like you're in. No one said, "Oh, hey, he just got Bettis," right? So,
could you imagine
that would be actually if someone angry runs, right? They should take that. This is probably I'm with EP for the first time. Like this is not my favorite of his. I prefer the Topps Chrome, which is much less valuable, obviously. So, going strictly on value, I get it. But yeah, this is Chris Sewell. If he doesn't have one of these in his reveals, especially his high end, or not Chris Sewell, I'm sorry, Alico 3. Yeah. When he doesn't have one of these in his high end reveals, I'm like, whoa, everything okay, brother? I mean, it's shocking.
He wants a 10 so bad.
He wants a 10 so bad.
I totally know that feeling. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. But it's a great card and one of the top 3 or 4 wide receivers of all time.
Yeah, they got number one. He got number one and number two. Well, the buyers, this was not the Crusoe. The buyers got the number one and number two right for this list. And Randy Moss is, I mean, I would sell that card up 100% and then buy 10 other rookie cards I like way better than this card. I mean, there are tons of them out there. There are at least 10 more I'd like better than this one. But I got to respect it as the guy he is. And that said, is just there's something about it.
Seems to be a theme with EP in this list. But Randy Moss, the most talented wide receiver I think that's ever played the game. I still think Jerry Rice is the best, and his numbers back that up. But like I think Randy Moss's talent level was above anybody in it. If he would have had a little better run in a couple places, like he kind of moved around a little bit toward the end. But
Titans era didn't serve him well.
We got to see some awesome players though. How about it? Like the players that we got to see in the 90s. Ooh,
absolutely. Yep. And number one, also from the 1998 SP Authentic. How can you not have Peyton Manning at number one? $800 card raw and $7,400 at a PSA 10. This card is clearly levels above everything else on the list, and rightfully so. Peyton Manning, come on, the who's better, Tom Brady or Peyton Manning debate. When they played, that was the debate all the time.
That was the game of the week every time.
People look back now, and because Brady has more Super Bowls, somehow he was a better quarterback. I don't think that peak Tom Brady was better than peak Peyton Manning. I think peak Peyton Manning was above Tom Brady. Tom Brady, incredible player, and played to such an old age, almost as old as me, and played at a high level that whole time. So that was amazing that he was able to do it and do it for as long. But at their peak, Peyton Manning was a better quarterback than Tom Brady. I said it. What are you going to do about it?
Yeah, and I don't think you're going to get any disagreement. I mean, you've got both of those guys too won Super Bowls with two different teams, which tells you a lot as well. And you talked about how Randy Moss was the most talented wide receiver, yet Jerry Rice was probably the better receiver. I kind of feel that same way about Brady and Peyton. Brady was the better quarterback. Peyton was the more talented quarterback for sure. I will say, what did you say the price was on this one, Mike?
$7,400 for a PSA 10 and $800 raw.
$7,400 for a PSA 10. Dare I say it's undervalued? Considering how great he was. Though, again, what's the value of the PSA 10 Contenders auto? Like, of his, like how that's not number one on this list is kind of shocking to me. Give me that one for $7,400 or less over this one. I like SP Authentic, don't get me wrong, but to have an on-card auto of Peyton Manning on kind of the most iconic set in terms of rookie cards, I got to go with that one instead. But I think we all knew, anyone watching the video would know, those Manning Moss were going to be 1 and 2.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I agree 100%. Everything that everybody said. You wonder if Peyton Manning hadn't gotten hurt at the end of his career, had more longevity, just like Brady, we might be talking about him as the greatest of all time, as opposed to Brady. I mean, it's very possible if they, that Denver team, that he wins 2 or 3 championships with them, depending on the player he is. So yeah, love the list, and the Peyton Manning obviously should be one.
The neck injury really hurt him because he could barely throw, and he won a Super Bowl in Denver. So like, it just, did he win a Super Bowl in Denver?
Yeah, he did. Right? He was.
Did they lose one too?
They lost one. So he went. His
I knew they won it, and then I said it, and I was like, wait a minute. They lost.
Yep.
But, yeah.
So the first one he lost to the Seahawks when the Seahawks defense was just unbelievable. And then the second one he won, but on the back of Von Miller, if you remember that, against the Panthers. So yeah, he didn't it was kind of like Brady's early Super Bowls. It was the defense that carried Brady, was kind of how Peyton got his second one. But yeah, I mean, you're right about the neck injury, though. If he didn't have the neck injury, he might have been saddled with a couple of bad Colts teams instead of going with Demaryius Thomas and Eric Decker and Julius Thomas. So yeah, it could have been a whole different.
And Manning is a way better broadcaster than Thomas.
Way better. It's way not better. Even close.
So I think that makes him a better quarterback too.
And has a nephew who's going to be a number 1 overall pick. I mean, come on, the Manning family is killing it.
It's
Killing
like the
Brady
bloodline in WWE. Are there any players that you guys were surprised didn't have a card on the list?
Oh, that's a really good question. I'm kind
Yeah,
of
think about
surprised
it.
Marvin Harrison wasn't on the list because that's that
Mhm.
SP set,
Yeah.
the same set
Yeah.
as Terrell Owens, very condition sensitive. I remember sending one off early on, Mike. Remember one of our first couple orders back in the early 2000s, sending Marvin Harrison. I got a 9. I was like, holy crap, this got a 9 because we knew how condition sensitive. So that's probably the guy I'm kind of surprised about not making at least the top 15. He must have been just off of it.
Yeah.
We talked about Marshall Falk, like that would be one that I'm surprised
that's
wasn't on there. He probably had one of the SPs just like them, but I don't remember 94 SP very well. There was a little bit of a gap for me collecting.
Bert Emanuel famously has a rookie in that set. So.
Yeah, 94 SP were very similar to the 93, the Spectra etch kind of finish and the chipping and stuff. So I was kind of surprised that card didn't make the list too. I would like to know
Jerome Bettis is as high as he is, but Falk isn't on the list at all.
Right. Falk didn't even make it. That is wild.
I wonder how close Phil Dawson would have come with his 1998 Edge Masters rookie.
Yeah.
Maybe
that was a base. That was considered a base.
And maybe there aren't 10 PSA 10s of it. Like that's what I was, because they're very condition sensitive card too. And I know Adam Vinatieri is a Hall of Famer and did a lot, but seeing Vinatieri on the list made me wonder how close Phil Dawson was. So I'll have to look that one up and see. But yeah, so any other thoughts about this list? I think it was a really good list. I like the way he did it. And it is kind of crazy for us that we collected all these cards. I still sell a lot of these cards in my stack sales. EP sells them at the show, but to see the PSA 10 prices of some of them kind of great. I know the ones I sold weren't PSA 10s, but after the fact, when you sold them and you see these prices, you go, but I wonder, I had so many, maybe I
should have looked closer. I should have
looked a little closer.
Yeah, and I don't think all of us, as much collecting as we did and ripping as we did back in the 90s, if you would have said what set is going to be represented the most on this list, I think we all would have said SP, right? Chris seemed surprised by it, which surprised me. He was surprised by it because to me of course, in a PSA 10, if that's the criteria we're looking at, of course, SP is going to be up there because of the quality control of SP at the time. And I don't remember what they were per pack, Mike, but they had to be one of the more premium sets per pack to open back then. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys. Well, that was a lot of fun. And thanks to Chris Sewell, the baseball card collector, investor, dealer, for putting this video out. I will put a link in the description. It's a short video. It's only maybe 15 minutes total.
We talked more about it than he did it.
Yeah, we did, but that's what we do. We like to talk about stuff, and this was a lot of fun. But yes, go check out his video because it's a great video and you'll enjoy it, especially if you enjoyed us talking about it. Go watch the source.
Yeah,
and let us know in the comments too which rookie you think was left off this list,
and which one were you most surprised was on the list,
and which one you want. Which one you're going to shop and buy?
Which one you're going to buy for each of us this Christmas?
Yeah, there's homework. Homework
only
below.
A few months away. Don't forget that. All right, guys. That was a lot of fun. I'll see you next week. Take care, guys.
See ya, boys.
See ya.